Good evening. This is Matt with the Dice of the Round Table, and tonight, my time, I don't know when you're going to see this, but I'm going to make mind tokens. So, Cruel Seas comes with these tokens, which are really cool, double-sided, dark, light, but I've been working on the Cruel Seas terrain, and I finished up some stuff. It was pink installation foam before. Now I have pink installation foam painted. And so I finished that up and then putting some sandbars together. And to add to the 3D effect on the table, I wanted to do mind tokens as terrain. So this is going to be an idea of how I'm going to do this. Because I know one of the Wargamers Illustrated, there was disc with one single styrofoam ball with some pins driven in for mind tokens, but I kind of wanted something, and I started a couple of different shapes so I can actually just lay them out and make a minefield. So we're going to see how this goes tonight. So I have a couple started. I'm going to start with how I ended up here. So this is adhesive vinyl. I found a box of, I think, 12. And I've messed with the board, the foam board. That's what the sandbars were out of. But for the mines, I wanted something a little bit thinner. And this vinyl tile was. So I've been messing around with this a little bit. I've seen some hit and miss on if it's as anti-warping as it could be. But so what I ended up doing was taking this, drawing a rough pattern of what I was looking for a minefield, and taking my X-Acto knife and roughing it out like so. And as you can see, the idea of what I was going to do in this one is to do a couple different stages. My concern is the painting stage. If I'll be able to get that part done. So I might be jumping back and forth on my staging just so I can get drying time in. So I didn't actually stage everything in the different stages of what it could be. Again, let's see how this goes. So I roughed it out, and now I'm going to finish it up. And for ease, because I feel like if I made the minefield, as you will see, is on the adhesive side, the vinyl side is down. Sadly, it could slide, which is not a big plus. However, at the same time, I don't have to worry about the paper peeling up and then having something sticky. So what I'm also doing is with the X-Acto, I do have it at an angle so that I have a slight slope to help with the gradual embankment. Um, and one reason, someone really tried to convince me just to make the mine tokens. But I did want that extra little depth of, hey, this is a legitimate minefield with little mines sticking up in the ocean. And you'll see the hardest struggle I had was trying to figure out something that was like a bead, but able to be cut in half to represent the body of the mind. And I really went through a couple different ideas as far as how easy it is for someone else to pick it up. If the only game you play is Cruel Seas, I will say you need to find someone that has bolt action. Or a similar game, even 40K, Space Marines might work when I get there. So what I ended up doing is, you play bolt action, and if you don't know what bolt action is, I'll talk about that in a minute. But in the bolt action box, the Warlord infantry sets that Warlord makes and produces for bolt action, you have more heads than you will need to make a box of dudes, which gives you some great variety, but it also fills up my bit box. So what I ended up doing was finding, and for bolt action I play Germans and Americans. So this next part, you're going to see a whole bunch of German and American things. So for this next part, I used, where is it? Modeling clay. I got my shape. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. I have it sloped at an angle, so it does slide down. So when it's on the table, it's not just boom, here's terrain, there's actual gradual slope. So next, I'm going to take some DOS clay. This is the air dry clay. This is what I did with these other ones. Remember, if you wet the surface first, and then I usually will take a small piece of my clay and dip it in water. That's what I do. And get it nice and smoothed out to cover the surface in a rough area. Not too thick, but again, I'm making it smooth down to the edge. And I also like this after doing a couple different ideas because it helps smooth out the edges. So we're gonna, this is probably too much. And smooth it out, smoothing it out. With my fingers, smooth this out. Got this sharp point up here. And then this way, there's a little up and down on it. So after this, I'm gonna try and clean my fingers off here. Yeah, I'm gonna put the DOS away. Okay, so I do have a big block. I actually just opened this up not too recently. I Ziploc mine. Keep as much air out of it as possible. Now I'm going into my bit box. Now this is where it gets fun. As this is what I was talking about. All these extra bits from Warlord set. This is my Americans. And not all of them are usable for this. And some of them start getting this netting on it. So it's not smooth. So I actually have to go through here and pick. And a piece like this, I think I'm going to do, I might do like 5 since this is a little bit wider. I'm looking for the smooth helmets. So equal opportunity, I'll pick a couple American helmets. Let's just say 3. And I'm going to save that guy. And that one's smooth. And then Germans have them too. My Germans, I have a whole bunch of more heads in this than I do for Americans. And you get the caps. That's 1, 2. I really don't see any massive difference when I've done it. So the helmet style comes down to what you want. But now I'm going to literally cut the face off. I'm going to take my clippers right up to the edge of the helmet. So that's fingers are where the helmet are. I'm going to clip it. And this one fell in. Oops. Fresh trash bag. No issues. Found it. No problem. 1. Let's do it 4 more times without dropping it this time. And let's see. It's 2. Make sure you get right up to the bottom of the helmet. 3. 4. And 5. So it's now without the face. Just the helmet. Just the helmet. There we go. Trying to figure out how this angle works. Now I'm going to trim it to make it as smooth as possible. So bolt action. For those that don't know anything about bolt action, it is a game by Warlord. They're in their 2nd edition, and it's a historic wargaming of World War II. They're about to come out with a Korea box, or a Korea book, and North Korean figures to go into a new time period as a campaign book. With the system, I really like it. My favorite part of it is the random dice pulling for initiative. And that's probably my favorite part about that game, because you really can't plan for initiative nor control it. Just do the best you got. Now I'm going to take this and shove it in and space these kind of in a zigzag pattern, and I want to push them in, hoping to get the clay to go up over the rim a little bit to hide the pieces of the helmet so it's not recognizable as a helmet. So at this point, I will move it around, move the clay up to the helmet, blend it in as if it was kind of like waves going up over the mine. And it's just riding in the water. Out of all these I've done so far, only one dried and caused it to curl a little bit, and that was on this piece right here. There's a little crack going right here, but once it's painted up, it should go away. So at this point, nothing else has really happened. to cause any concern about the clay being used. And I don't know what these are called I'm using. These are clay working sculpting tools. They have that soft rubbery tip of different shapes. I got a simple pack from Michaels. AC Moore carries them, any arts and crafts store. And then I'm going to take my finger and just smooth out the marks. As I'm a war gamer, I kind of like dabbling in terrain. A sculptor, I am not. I'm sure some people have the skills to make the waves and curl. I am here to try to make something just pop a little bit that's simple. So now it's going to dry over time. I usually let mine sit overnight. So the next part is a part that took me some thinking. But the mines have the little studs. A friend of mine on Facebook, Samuel, really is like, they're not mines, because this is what I had. And he's like, they're not good enough. Because they don't have, I forget what they're called, but the spikes. So now we're going to put the spikes on. Presumably it's been dried. I am using Citadel plastic glue for this part. Now, again, rating the bolt action bits. I have some leftover stuff for War Games Factory, but you can also use the extra bits from Bolt Action. It may seem a shame, however, again, lots of rifles, lots of bits. So I was using the ends of the rifle. And the handle of the spades. So I have this War Game Factory sprue laying around leftover. I am going to go in here and cut off some of the entrenching tool off this one. So I have it. I'm going to probably get about 2, maybe 3 spikes out of this. And I'm going to literally just come in here. I'm going to put my other finger on this side when I cut it so it doesn't pop somewhere. Having a really sharp X-Acto is great for this. I literally just changed out this blade before I started doing this. So the only thing this had cut was that vinyl tile beforehand. So I'm going to go in here. And then when I do this, I need 5 spikes for each mine. So I'm getting 2 from each entrenching tool. So that's 4 and that's 5. And I have 2 mines on here. So I actually need to cut off a couple more because I didn't do the math. You will see as I do videos, I kind of like winging some things. I'm not someone who necessarily is going to pre-plan a whole lot of things, but just like, let's see if it works. Let's give it a try. Kind of what I do. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't work. I have taken whole things of terrain I've tried to build and just put them right into the trash can afterwards and go, well, that was a nice try. And other things come out amazing with little effort. So this part, some of you may do it differently. For what I did is literally coat my helmet in the glue. And then you can use fingers, you can use tweezers. I am trying to line up the bits around the bottom. I like the Citadel glue since it kind of does the melting thing to fuse the plastic together. Works pretty good. There are times where it just doesn't quite get it, but it's a really small surface area bonding the places together, because again, these are itsy bitsy. An itsy bitsy spider is going onto the mine. It is not going up the gutter. Rain spout. And it kind of ends up looking something like that. One on top and 4 going around. And what I did with my other ones, oh, I gotta put the glue on, is I did vary some of the placements so that it wasn't just on the water line, but kind of at an angle, if the glue works with you. For the angles, you may just have to, if you've worked with Citadel plastic glue before, you know, you may just have to let it sit for a couple seconds to hold it in that spot. And 3, boop. And the only issue I have about cutting these the way I have, so small, is I have lost track of them on my cutting mat. And ollie ollie oxen free, where is the last one? That's the shovel parts. I am missing one. Oh well, I will just cut another. This time I will take one of the rifle barrels, because the rifle barrels, just so you can see that as well. Again, winging it. I did on rifles before. I'm going to cut that very front piece off. So the sight, I'm going to trim the sight and then trim the barrel. So literally, that's what I have left. That's my barrel, equivalent to the rest of it. See if I can get some of this glue before it's all dried up. Nope. All my tweezers are metal, so I know they make plastic tweezers. I would not recommend using plastic tweezers during this. I don't think it would work very well, and I don't think you'll make very good progress, because it's bad enough with this, the pieces don't leave the metal tweezers. I can't imagine what it would do to plastic tweezers. So, just count to 10. Nope, does not want to bond. There we go. And now we have the mine. You see that being really flat, and this has got the spikes sticking up a little bit. So some variation. Mine's floating in the water. Done with adhesives. Next up, this is Dollar Store Mod Podge, and I have put in black, which one was this? Folk art paint. Again, AC Morris, just basic acrylic craft paint into Mod Podge. This is Dollar Store size. Really have grown to like this a little bit since I picked it up from the Black Magic Craft YouTube channel. I've put black, I actually poured some out, used it, put black paint directly into here to help it, and that is where we're going next. It's going to end up looking like this. So this one's drying. So got my black Mod Podge. take a cheap, inexpensive brush from the multi big old packs. Actually, let me put this away because now we're on painting. I do not need this. I have enough little bits. I'm just tossing those bits. I'm sure I will think of something I can do with that later. But right now, I can't think of anything to do with that, and I got lots of bits already from Bolt Action. I'm going to let them just go. So let's get the paint on. So that's my black Mod Podge. And I'm going to, let's get in here. I definitely probably could have made this more black than what it is, but I didn't really pre-measure everything. I just wanted a colored Mod Podge, and I feel like having done this a couple times with this stuff, I really like it. It's a lot simpler than doing a textured paint. It's a lot easier than doing filler than painting it. Base color, this was a nice sealer. I don't have to worry about PVA glue and sealing it with the watered down PVA solution, letting it dry, and then painting it. This is a sealer and paint all in one. Now I haven't done this part all thought out, but I'm going to go with a dark blue. This is Artist Loft. This is a brilliant blue. This came out of a multi-pack of their paints. To the point, I have not used this yet. So, open this up. Close this up. And let's get a little bit on here. So, my goal is to paint the water. Again, these are all inexpensive brushes, nothing super special. And then get the base coat of blue on. I have some of my hobby paints. What I will be using for the mines are some Army Painter. I have my matte black. I have my gunmetal shining silver plate mail for dry brushing of the mines themselves. I'll see how much of a dry brush coat I want to apply to it. I'm torn about how much I actually want to do with it. Also, since this is in the water, I may experiment, but I'm looking for keeping it simple method here of getting some blue on here. Then after I get the blue on, do some lightning with a lighter blue. I really do kind of like this blue on this black Mod Podge. It looks pretty good actually. This could be definitely represent some deeper ocean. Make sure I get the edge here. Boom, boom. Go to this up. So then I got in a discussion today with someone about Cruel Seas. Oh, the brief discussion of they weren't quite into it as much. I feel like Cruel Seas is a niche. You got to take it for what it is. It's definitely coastal. It's supposed to be a little bit more light because you're not messing with the big battleships. You're not messing with a whole bunch of planes. I think one of the things I want to do is give it a try is taking Blood Red Skies, another Warlord product, but it's a World War II aircraft, dogfighting. You can put some bombers into it, and torpedo bombers, dive bombers, and so forth. But playing it at the same time, you're playing Blood Red Skies as you're playing Cruel Seas. I have not looked into the rule book to see if the simulated turn is equal, but I really feel like some of the action could go together really well thematically. So it's something I really do want to give it a try. So I got this bright blue apple barrel. You're going to see I have 3 different craft acrylic paints that I'll be using. And then I have this basics. So if I'm correct, these 2 I got at Michael's. This one is AC Moore. Anyway, this is basics. This is a cerulean blue hue, if you care, and I have used this because it is open. So this will help with some color definition. That brilliant blue is definitely the brightest of them all, as you can see. So I'm going to take this blue, dab it a little bit, and the paint's still a little wet, that first dark blue. This will help blend some of that in to give you hopefully that reflective element is what I'm hoping for. And not just all one color. Definitely still wet, but mixing some of this brighter blue. Dab, dab, dabby dab, dab, dab. And then I want to go back to that really, well, that, not an artist, but maybe it's the richer blue. And bring that back up. Let's see how this works. I'm liking how it looks. Some different variations. And then I still plan on putting that water effect on top. That's the one thing I wish I had gone back to do with the sandbars here, was doing this blue effect on, doing the blue effect under here to make it a little bit darker. But instead, this is just the browns and the tans I used. And then I put the water effect right on it to show like waves going over the sandbar and creeping over it. I will say now looking back, it is probably something I want to experiment with a different method to do. But for gameplays, I think it will be a lot more fun to play with that over. See if I can get it really quick. That. Granted, kind of on the same length, but now I can get some fun little sides on it, shapes. some of them you put together to make the sandbar. So this way, my sandbars are about the same length with the space. Because in Cruel Seas, you actually can possibly, if you're not inexperienced, drive through the sandbar. I guess if you're going fast enough, you go. I don't know. I'm not all that technical into the aspects of naval terminology, let's say, on that one. So I'm gonna do. You know what? I think I'm just gonna go right to the gunmetal. And yeah, I did not shake it with the lid on that one. Oops, I was rushing on that. I'll use this one. And I'm not even trying to paint this solid. I'm working with just the dry brush mentality now. Keeping the paint to a minimum. I'm leaving the water line blue. I'm not getting all the way down to the bottom. That way it helps with the effect that the mine is sitting in the water, hopefully helping with the effect of it's bobbing up and down, rolling with the waves. So there's the gunmetal. Wash that off. Move on to plate metal. I typically do gunmetal, plate metal, shiny silver as my 3 metallics. Boop. So now, take this. And I know that this video is probably not going to be seen for a while because I'm new to doing this. And I know from watching other people, they talk about how YouTube wants you to be doing it for a while. Reliability, not a one-shot wonder. So this is definitely going to be an early video if you're watching this. And who knows what year you might be watching this. Because again, the internet, once it's on the internet, it's always on the internet. So couple little strokes on the shiny silver. There's some mine sitting in the water. And painting is done. Moving to, this is Vallejo water texture. This is the Azul Atlantic. Did not pick this up thinking I would do Cruel Seas. I actually picked this up for some water effect at my local store, Chuck's Comics. And they had this and what was the other color? I think the Pacific one in stock on the shelf. And at the time, I was building, again, on a whim, trying something for the fun first time, a modular 6x4 table out of 1x1s, which, if you go to my Facebook and dig back, there is pictures of it, but I had done it, and I wanted a little stream / river running through the board on a couple pieces, and so I wanted to get some water effect. I'd never messed with it. That board was an experimentation and a lot of things that I've never done before. Building a battle board, period. Then not just building a battle board, but choosing to do one that was modular. That was just my computer going off at me. And doing it modular and not having all the tools to do the cutting myself, and not really having anyone with a mill shop that I knew at the moment. I now know someone that can do the mill work for me. But cutting foam and MDF boards and having our lovely local Home Depot do it for us. And I asked the guy if they could cut 1x1 squares. And lo and behold, 1x1 squares, when I say 1x1, 1 foot by 1 foot. So all my boards, my modular board, which is a 6x4, was made up by 1x1 foot squares, 12 inches by 12 inches. Well, when he ended up cutting, was not 12 inches by 12 inches on some. Some were over, some were short, in the big scope of things, which made it a little bit of a nightmare. I mounted pink insulation foam on top of the MDF board, and that's what the actual platform was going to be. But because the squares weren't 1x1s, lo and behold, it wouldn't fit well together. So fast forward, through a contact at my wife's job, we were able to find someone that had some equipment, table saws and so forth, who was able to do some trimming for me. So long story short, we got the trimming done. I finished that board. I've played on it a couple times. I would do things a whole lot more differently now than what I did then, but I don't have storage to make another one right now. I really want to. I actually want to make a couple different boards, but that will be one day in the future. And if you're watching this in the future, it could have already happened. I don't know. You will know, because it's the future. And water effect applied. And now it just needs to dry. These are the mind templates I'm building. If it gives you inspiration, I'm glad. If you're thinking about the same thing and maybe you have a better idea on maybe how to make the mines or the stems coming off the mines, I know they have a technical term. I don't know what they are. Sammy will probably yell at me and send me messages or something. But in the end, I like how they're looking. They're not probably 100% to scale, but I really do like the scale, and I feel like it works better because I think if it was a base, I think the Wargamers Illustrated had bases like this to represent the area that was mined. This I kind of like because it actually kind of replaces the token, keeping you have multiple mines on one. But either way, I hope it gives you inspiration. Otherwise, this is Matt from the Dice of the Round Table signing off. If you had any comments, go ahead. If you got inspiration, enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel, and I'm sure I'll be doing other ones because I like doing some of the terrain scratch builds. I want to get into a little bit more of it. I've built some things here and there, but that's on my Facebook page. I didn't do videos for those. So either way, wherever you are, whatever time it is, hope you have fun. Play some games.